Welcome to the Analytics Power Hour. Analytics topics covered conversationally and sometimes with explicit language.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's the Analytics Power Hour, episode 270. Back in 2023, I asked AI to write an intro to the podcast. And in the words of Mo, it did a pretty shit job. But AI hasn't gone away, and the possibilities, capabilities, and potential of these LLMs are expanding seemingly by the minute. So today we're strapping on our robot helmets and plunging headfirst into the wild, whirring world of artificial intelligence. So what's AI really for? Is it just a fancy predictive model? Maybe just a massive checkbox on your boss's latest buzzword bingo card? I don't know. Hype versus help? Automation versus annihilation? And whether or not your next coworker might be, a chatbot with boundary issues. So grab a drink, mute your Slack notifications, and prepare to find out if your career path is evolving or being quietly replaced by a GPT-powered spreadsheet whisperer. Speaking of spreadsheet whisperers, let me introduce my co-hosts. Julie Hoyer.
Hi there.
I'm very excited that you're on the show, Julie, because I feel like you're probably one of the most knowledgeable people about AI in our group. So I'm going to be leaning on you quite a bit. No, I've been observing all of us, and I'm pretty sure, you're going to be.
I'm the sleeper.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up, Val Kroll.
Hello.
Val, I did love the April Fool's stuff that you and Tim put together for Facts and Feelings. So
a month ago.
I guess that's a good use of AI.
Yeah. Facts and Furious.
Yeah, April Fool's a month ago. Everyone knows when April Fool's is, Tim. Mo Kiss.
Just remembering back.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Would it surprise you to learn that good chunks of that intro were written by AI?
Yes. Yeah.
They were.
Yep. Yeah, sounds legit.
The models have progressed quite a bit. And speaking of people who haven't progressed quite a bit, Tim Wilson. No, I'm just
count.
Insert cheering sound.
X lookup.
Right. X lookup.
Index.
That's
match.
right.
I'm whispering to the spreadsheet.
That is actually the first.
I roll.
No, I literally read Tim's blog way back in the day with Excel tips and tricks. Like, I learned things from Tim Wilson about Excel, so that is
Peaked
true.
in 2008.
Hey, listen, it's working for you, so don't give up. All right, I'm Michael Helbling. So let's what do the kids call it? Vibecast or Vibe Podcast? I don't know. Let's do this thing.
Jeez.
All right. So, Julie, is it going to take our jobs, this AI thing?
No, definitely not.
All right.
No.
Thank you.
No. My experience,
Great show, everybody.
I'm not worried. See you next time.
See you next time.
Rock flag.
Okay, but why isn't it going to take our jobs? We should probably dig into that a little bit. And let's also maybe dig into what our jobs are a little bit so that we can kind of see where AI helps, where it doesn't. And I guess other people can also chime in too.
I guess. Okay, most recently something I'm running into a lot is, and I feel like this is an example we've talked about previously on the podcast multiple times. A lot of people have written blog posts about it. And it's just funny because now I'm fighting this battle in like multiple fronts at work. The same discussion of, I think for analysts, like AI is not ready to just replace us, even for like writing queries. Like there is no like talk to your AI and ask it your business questions and have the data insights come from, your big data warehouse or anything. And people are still so excited about that.
Wait a minute.
From what I have seen, it's not
debugging versus giving it Julie just said from business question to having it write it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Oh,
Okay. I think the distinction is important, but let's let you keep going.
Yeah, I think it's still there's a lot of this like fantasy of like, it's going to be so much faster for an analyst. Like, go into your analytics tool and just like type away your questions that you have to answer and like get insights really quick. And I have just had some specific like experiences recently where I'm like, see, it's still not, you guys are saying that, that's like the promise, that's what they want, but it's not true. So I'm still not seeing it even in that sense of like for an analyst and reporting, like we're not close to that. Which that takes a ton of time as an analyst to synthesize the data, put it into a coherent answer, and have it be insightful for your business stakeholder.
Okay, without giving away too much, this is a delicate tightrope to walk. So what we've been trialing, and there's some super smart people at Canva. Adam Evans had a really brilliant idea, and then Sam Redfern, who I used to work really closely with, has been exploring kind of productionizing it. It's been really cool. It's like looking at like what are the top queries that are getting asked, like SQL queries versus like a table, right? Or like a report table or a model table. And then using AI to help like generate the best query possible to get back the data. And what we've noticed is if we do that and then we return the data back and then ask our business question, it's doing a better job. And we're starting to like test that out across multiple different business streams. And I've decently played with it and pretty comfortable. Like, I think the thing is like, we're not at a point where you don't need a data person involved at all. Like, you still definitely need to QA data. You definitely need to be like looking at the query logic, all that sort of stuff. But it is a lot more promising probably than I expected in a faster time. And I'm going to throw out something controversial, and Tim is like sitting on the edge of his seat.
Yeah,
I think we might get to a point where we don't need dashboards. Mic drop.
Well, yeah, I think I agree with that.
Oh, maybe it's not surprising.
Well, I mean, I think dashboards are generally bullshit, so...
I was going to say more that I think, Mo, hearing your success with this so far, though, the difference for me is I'm not working with clients that are building something homegrown. They want something out of the box that works. And they don't. I think people don't realize the training that goes into it.
That's right.
It's contextful. It takes a lot. There's a lot to think through, and people aren't connecting those dots of like all the steps in between. But
so
your team obviously is doing
you're thinking
more of
that most people just want to like buy a tool and be like, here's access to our data warehouse, and now
they
those
lean
fucking
and say,
tools are hitting me every goddamn day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We have solved it, and they stand up the biggest fucking straw man of the problem is business users can't get to their data. And imagine if they could just ask what were sales like in the Northwest region last month, and it would generate that query.
Yeah.
And it is the biggest fucking farce. I was having the exact same reaction within an enterprise organization with experts that have the ability to have captured a lot of queries and captured a lot of expertise and train it. I do feel like is very, very different from the promise of the BI platforms and all these Johnny-come-lately upstarts that are like, we can solve this. That drives me nuts.
Because they're saying, you come with all your data, we have a really good LLM, now ask it your questions, and it has the data there so it can answer for you. And it's not taking into account that it's not smart enough. It doesn't know, you haven't trained it how to actually... It doesn't have the context around your data. It doesn't have the context around your business. Like, that takes so much.
The thing that we are still having to do is, like, we have a very unique data warehouse in how we've chosen to build it, where we have, like... Well, we've tried to build a lot more like small, lean tables to answer specific questions, which means that we have thousands of tables, right? And so like the joins become complex, all that sort of stuff. And the thing that we are still very much having to do is helping point it at the right table and provide context on that table. And so I think the thing that I probably... like my own thinking has developed quite a bit is that previously I probably used to see our data warehouse as being like almost a barrier to us using AI, whereas like now I'm starting to see it as much more of an advantage. But you still need that like SME knowledge of like, this is the best table to use. And one of the ways that we've been solving for that is looking at what are the top dashboards that people are looking at a company level, because often it's like the report layer table that's sitting underneath that dashboard is the best possible data source because it's all structured and clean and like has all the right dimensions. And then we pointed at that specific table. So like, I totally hear what you're saying. Like, I have such a different perspective because we do have the SME knowledge, right?
Well, it's intriguing if you actually are using as your training data the history of all the queries that have been run. And I mean, that's kind of the wisdom of the crowds. If your training data is what are the queries that the experts have written, and now we can estimate the best query.
What's definitely become clear to me is that your source data requires many different other pieces of metadata or parallel data, like the queries being run, like what questions people are asking internally, what reports are being used, what other things are happening in the business that aren't stored in that data set, so that an inference engine like an LLM can actually come up with something that is not just sort of like that intern level time on site was 42 seconds type of bullcrap you get from big agencies. Did I just say that out loud? Sorry, big agencies.
I think maybe somewhere you would have named a specific agency, and I
didn't want to go that far. But it's also interesting because the companies who are out on the forefront of this, trying to build sort of like these, chat assisted or AI assisted data exploration tools, like probably one of the ones that I'm most familiar with right now is Zenlytic, which is they're very upfront about the fact you have to build this other layer, which they call a cognitive layer, on top of it so that you can actually leverage their tool.
Well,
and they don't claim to provide you insights at this point. They just claim to provide you ad hoc data. So if you need to get a metric, they can do that for you. And I appreciate both the honesty and the progress, because I think I am bullish on this. Like, I think there is a future here, but I also think we're nowhere close to asking a question and getting an answer that includes context and insight that gives us a next action. Picture this. You're stuck in the data slow lane. You're wrestling with broken data pipelines, manual fixes, suddenly streaking across the sky, faster than a streaming table, more powerful than a SQL database, able to move massive data volumes in a single bound. It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Fivetran. I need a hero for data integration. Fivetran, with over 700 pre-built, fully managed connectors, seamlessly syncs your data from every source to any major destination. No heroics required on your part. That means no more data pipeline downtime, no more frantic calls to your engineers, no more waiting weeks to access critical insights. And it's secure, it's reliable, it's incredibly easy to deploy. Fivetran is the tool you need for the sensitive and mission-critical data your business depends on. So get ready to fly past those data bottlenecks and go learn more at fivetran.com/APH. Unleash your data superpowers. Again, fivetran.com/APH. Check it out.
So an example of that cognitive layer that we're running into. So we were trying to use Explore Assistant in Looker, and I don't love it. I don't understand. Anyways, we won't go down that. I don't love it. Here's an example. 2 examples. We don't have that cognitive layer. I don't know how we build that in. We're trying to do this, let's say, like we're trying to do a project that's pretty at scale. And like a cognitive layer for every client we might use this for, right? Like that's quite a bit of work to spin it up. So we were even doing a test use case where we were working with the AI agent Explore, and we asked it, we said, show us the top 10 performing landing page, like cost per landing page, right? And then we asked it the worst performing, and we were like, look, I was working with some engineers. They're like, look, we got it to provide the data we were expecting. And then I realized it actually wasn't understanding best and worst either. Like even those semantics of me saying best cost per landing page would be the cheapest ones, they were showing me the most expensive, and vice versa. When I said worst, they were showing me the cheapest. So it's even little things like that. Or we were trying to ask about a specific metric, but we were just using the layman's terms, right? Like a business user asking about it. And because the name coming from the data source is nowhere near that, you know what I mean? It was never going to get to that data point for us.
Okay. So what is top of mind for me right now is like, why do I not seem to be having these same challenges? Is it just that like we also have an enterprise account and we're uploading so much more of our own business context, and so then we're like not having these hurdles? Is that like a big part of it? I think so.
I think, yeah, because what you can train an LLM on is all about what you get back out of it. And I live in a world where, Mo, I don't have clients who are taking all of their data and storing it in an LLM, or how about this? Consciously executing a data strategy aligned with growth of AI usage consistently. I have some clients who are doing quite a bit with it, but what they're seeing is the exact same thing. They now have people full time whose job it is to ensure that the AI is getting fed the right information, which I think is kind of fascinating. And then the other thing is that there's such a big expectation gap because of what AI is able to do in other categories. So, like, for instance, when I sat down with my son recently and we, quote, vibe coded a video game the other night, and we had a working video game in like 5 minutes. It kind of blew my mind, and here's why. Because I don't know how to write code. But this AI could take a step forward in capability so big, it makes people think, oh, that step forward's available in every context. And it's simply not, because... And I've thought about this a lot. Like, why is it so good at coding already? And I think the reason why is because code lives all in the same place and is logical in its structure. So, like, the code is right there.
Some code. It's good at some code.
No, it's not perfect at coding, but, like, it's the best. Like, writing code is what AI is really the most product-ready thing it can do, I think, besides making cool animated versions of your own photos now. Is what it's really amazing at, and it blows my mind how good it is now at it. Like, it's so impressive. But I also start to realize that, like, oh yeah, because everything it needs to know is right there. It's all in the code.
Yeah, but okay, can I talk you guys through an example that someone in my team showed me?
I want to call out that, you know, Ethan Malik did a whole like vibe coding to build a game piece that's like worth a read. That was kind of, it was like speaking things into existence, where it was a little bit more involved game, but kind of where he took steps forward and steps back. So, yeah, that just reminded me of that, your example. So.
Way to slip in a last call there, Tim. Nice job.
Nope, wasn't even on my last call list.
Wow. All right, Mo, go ahead.
Just showing off altogether. Okay, so someone in my team showed this last week, and to be fair, I have not played with Claude at all. I have been quite monogamous in my AI tooling, and basically what he did is created a new Claude project. He uploaded into it LookML for an existing... So LookML is the language that sits behind Looker, which is a dashboarding tool for anyone listening. So you have to write LookML code to basically get the data in the right format to build a dashboard. And so he uploaded like basically a LookML for an existing look. He then added like the underlying data that sits behind it from the data warehouse, as well as the code of how that table's created, then gave it a sample data set, and basically like saved these all to his project. And then within like a good 15 minutes, Claude because he put a lot of thought and effort into the steps and what data and like what context he uploaded, it gave him back the LookML to build a dashboard. And he turned that around in like 15 minutes and built like this whole new dashboard for our stakeholders, which, to be honest, like we didn't have the resourcing or time to build. He definitely like talked us through the fact that he had to make like tweaks and like make changes to this or that, or like the wrong visualization was picked here, or he wanted the colors to be this, or, you know, that sort of thing. But that is like another example of it is so much about what you're putting in. And I just wonder sometimes if the expectations of people are like, here is like one very selective bit of data. Now answer this really complicated question, which it doesn't have enough business context to do. And that like we need to spend more energy on putting quality in. Oh, I don't know. I feel like Tim's rolling his eyes at me.
Hopefully not to generate a fucking dashboard, but okay. That's awesome. We found a fast
It generated a fucking dashboard. Do you know how excited I was? Big shout out to Steve Austin.
I'd be excited and save you all those steps and time.
Hold on. You just said we're not going to need dashboards. Why are we generating?
People still think
I
they
know.
need them now, but in a
joking.
year, I don't think they will. Because they'll be like, ultimately, you look at a dashboard to be like, are we on track or not? Like, what was our performance? Are we hitting it? Blah, blah, blah. Like, people, I feel like it's a crutch that people need. And it's like, if you can answer that question without having a dashboard, why would you need it?
Yeah, I look forward to a future where my brain gets stimulated and I smell apples when sales are down in the Northwest.
I mean, that's kind of bizarre. I mean, to me, the only place, I mean, not to mount the dashboard, but like the only place a dashboard is really useful is actually showing in a consistent manner, are we delivering against the business outcomes, against our targets? So I actually would think that would be useful. I don't want to ask an LLM every time, what is it I care about? What metric is it that I want to look at? Like, so I don't know. That's maybe a topic for a whole other.
You just say, where am I underperforming, and have it spit it out.
Am I on target? Where am I underperforming? And what action should I take?
Oh, and what? Okay.
I didn't say that one.
I think I do need another.
Tim's going to need a drink.
I think Canva has another breakthrough product category here, analytics tools.
I did a thought experiment where I said this is kind of the perfect dashboard would be one that only showed where you were underperforming. So you'd have the same structure, but everything would go away if you were actually, delivering, you were meeting your results, and so you'd wind up with a very sparse. But I still think there's human value of knowing what to look at and where. But because that's been another thing that so much of the hype around AI, and this even goes back to other products pre kind of AI that we're still doing we're going to put stuff. Our users don't want to see charts. They want to know what's going on. And so it basically would barf out text that describe the charts. We are, as human beings, a visual representation of data is easier to internalize than prose. So
some tools do the visualization too. Like, I didn't realize how good Claude is at doing that. Like, it does visualizations for you and like scorecards and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, do you need this dashboard to exist in perpetuity? Or is it like, you're going to do your check-in at whatever cadence it is for whatever meeting, and it just pops it up and there you go.
But I hope that it would pull up the same thing every time. Like, there's the same. There's value in consistency.
That's a good point.
Structure,
yeah,
right?
But I think you could have a prompt that schedules that and runs it the same way every time.
But is it more efficient, like technologically, and the whatever it takes to run AI to keep asking it the same thing when you need to just create it once and let it sit and go look at it, right? Like, is it really worth the energy of
much like computers? I expect it to cost to come down over time. So I don't know. Who cares about that? I mean,
it just feels inefficient. Like, it's exactly what I want. Let me build it and save it in a dashboard, and I'll go click on it every Monday. Like, that to me just seems easier.
But the hurdle that is much easier. And it just goes a little bit to that example of, I'm building something, I'm writing some code, I'm writing some SQL, I'm doing consider it just the traditional task where I might hit a snag and read through and put in comments and try to figure out where the hell it's breaking, and then go and search and read like 7 Stack Overflow posts that aren't quite on that. I mean, the limited work I've been doing when I'm like, I want to specifically I want to take the system time and I want to convert it from this to this and compare it to that. And it's probably old school now. Like, I wind up in Perplexity, and I think, Michael, you made a comment like offline that the coding part, it is good. And with the interface I was using with Perplexity, where I'm like, it's watching me. It's looking at the Posit community. It's looking at Stack Overflow. It's basically doing a bunch of Google searches and consolidating and comparing them to my query. And then it's returning me code that is very good and reliable. But that's not me asking it a business question. That's me as an analyst saying, I want to see this. Can you help me write some code to do that? And because I'm asking it about doing stuff like in R, I have a decent grounding in R. So what comes back, one, it's not coding the whole video game where I know nothing. It's giving me 10 lines of code. And I'm like, I didn't know the system function existed. That's pretty cool. I've learned more. So in that case, I feel very comfortable that it's like rapidly speeding up. Instead of me doing 12 searches and winding up on the same unhelpful Stack Overflow post, it's actually returning the right result. And I'm like, oh, I've learned something and moved on. I was like, holy cow, this accelerated my iterations on writing the code. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And that seems wildly better than it was, even 6 months ago.
So to go back to the original question that launched us into this, which was like, is
you kept
AI
on to
gonna
that
replace
thread this
our
whole time.
jobs? Yeah, I've been holding on to my answer for this whole. I was kidding.
I was
I was just reminded.
Listen, Val is trying to talk here, people. Come on.
No, I just remember because lots of people have written about that topic. Like that's, definitely an interesting thing that people read. But one of the best articles I had seen on this, no surprise, Eric Sandesham. And one of the concepts that he brought up around this was that, AI is really good at problem solving and it's getting better and better, but it's not making a lot of progress on the problem defining part of it. And that's like where that human component always is. And like, that's like the business context that we've been talking about, like coming up with the hypothesis, structuring exactly what tasks needed to be done in order to, do whatever you were working on. Tim, if you want to reveal your project, I'll leave that to you. But I think that that's a really helpful way that my brain kind of organizes and categorizes where they'll continue to be improvements, but where they'll always need to be an assist. And that's why we can be comfortable.
And I'll go a step further than that, Val. I actually really think that as AI comes into its own, it'll start to really show who can do that really well and who cannot in organizations. Like AI is going to basically highlight the people who are really shit at understanding the levers that drive the business and driving down into the causes and effects that actually make things happen. And it's actually going to make people look bad eventually, because you'll be like, oh yeah, you're not getting anything of value out of this tool. That's strange. Let me just, it's like that. And then suddenly that person's going to be shown to be like, not really of the caliber.
I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just me being crazy optimistic as usual. I see it as really exciting. Like there are so many boring bits of the data job.
But no one's saying it's not
I'm bullish. Totally. I want those people out. So I think that's great.
But it's the difference between, right, and Mo, you shared an example that did not make it to a recording, and we won't name who did it. It was some business partner saying, hey, can you generate some hypotheses? Like it literally asked like the prompt, can you generate hypotheses? Took those, threw them over the wall to you and said, hey, can you prioritize and validate these, or your team? Compare that to, and I've heard, like I was talking to John Lovett about how he went about writing his latest book, The New Big Book of KPIs by John Lovett, which now it doesn't have to be my last call. And his part of his use of AI,
stuffing this episode with last calls.
Stuffing it in. Jeez. But part of his technique, and I've heard others talk about. I mean, this is not totally original, but he said, imagine you are he gave specific industry people. He said, you are responding to me as an ideation assistant, and I feel like a lot of people, and I mean Ethan Mollick, Jim Stern, John Lovett, lots of people are saying, let the AI be really smart coworker. Use it as a sounding board. Still be a human, but instead of saying, hey, Julie, can you hop on a call so we can kick some stuff around about that? Before you've done that and got to find time on Julie's schedule, it can instead be, hey, you're an analyst with a applied math master's degree who's been working in agency, whatever. Now, I have a question about this. What sort of prompts what would you ask me? What would you think? What would your ideas be? So that is an ideation companion, and I've tinkered with that as well. Not saying, give me this and I want to take and edit the responses, but much more of I want to use you as a non-judgmental and infinitely patient sounding board. And that, I think, from a hypothesis generation, because that forces me to actually express, what am I thinking? what do I see? I think it might be this. I think it could be this. Just like I would in more of a human interaction, as opposed to I want to write the one sentence prompt and have it just give me the answer. And when you look at some of the people out there who are posting, like their prompts are pretty involved. And it is the case back to the coding of where Cassie Kozakov had an article where she said, if you know how to code, it is actually in many cases faster to write the damn code than to write a prompt that describes what you want the code to be. And that's very different from Mike, like your example with writing the video game with
because I can't write the code. So
so I'm like, I'll just describe it and I'll work in that prose. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes, I don't know, I just had.
On the sounding board front, wouldn't it be cool if we could make it talk to Julie's gem?
Yeah.
But
see, that's the part of my job that I like. If people were like, "Oh, I don't want to bug Julie, I'll talk to her gem," I'd be like, "I'm gonna toss this gem real quick." Like,
so speaking of sounding board, so I built this in Notebook LM Plus. I just took all the personality assessments and leadership style stuff I've ever done, dumped it in there, and I made an AI chat. I made an AI chat agent that people can interact with about my personality, my style, ask questions about how to conduct meetings with me, and I've given that to my team so that
God, gotta go. Sorry guys, gotta go.
I'm out.
I'm busy. All of a sudden.
But I mean, there's lots of these amazing little things you can do with tools like that. And it's not just idea starters. It can also be things that are like things we never thought of as tools. Because before, what I'd do is I'd kind of type up sort of a one-pager, right, of like, here's how I work best with people, and kind of like people would read it or throw it away probably. But, now it's sort of like, if you're curious about something, there's, here's 8 years of, leadership personality stuff I had to take tests on. Feel free to just ask it anything.
And kind of fun if you're like, ooh, I don't want to ask Michael this question, but I need to know. I'll ask his personality, AI agent.
It's not me in there, okay? It's just about me.
It's a Black Mirror episode.
And before anyone asks, I can only share it within my own organization because that's how Notebook LM Plus works. So I cannot share it with you. So don't ask.
Do you know? Okay, I need to have a gripe about something.
Yeah, do it.
This is where I'm seeing like AI really just like fuck up my life.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sick of reading things that have been written by AI. I am like so violently angry about it, especially it is getting overused to write work on analysts and data scientists' behalf, like put together the findings. And it is crap because I think there is a way you can make it okay of like you write it and like just clean up my text versus like, but I am reading so many documents that are written by AI. And the thing that also frustrates me is if like anyone has like a half-baked idea, it's suddenly like, here's a doc on it. And you're like, great. So now I have like 5,000 times more docs to read. And it's a half-baked idea because you didn't have to spend the day writing it or a couple of hours writing it. You could basically leave yourself a voice note and then turn it into a doc. And so people are just like throwing these docs around. And I'm like, it's actually...
You should see some of the
frustrating
social media promotions that are like AI generated. They're the worst.
Tell me about it. But Mo, I've got a solution for you. You take those docs, you chuck them in an AI, you get a 1-sentence summary, move on.
And then
I didn't really like your insert 1-sentence idea.
The issue is though that often I feel like almost like the directness or the takeaway gets so watered down that what you're reading starts to turn into like smush. And you're like, it loses like the crispness of what the idea was.
And I think this is very, very important. There's a point about AI that I think is really important about what you're talking about, which is the way I say it is AI is right down the middle in terms of an average. And basically when AI does something, it kind of does it just okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really great. Like it made me a just okay video game. And that's amazing because I'm 0 on that. But if I'm pretty good as an analyst and it makes me a just okay analysis. That's pretty crummy. I can't work with that. I need better than that. And so one of the things that sort of stood out to me about AI and its usage is that knowledge and expertise actually becomes a massive and important filter for how AI is actually going to be beneficial or not beneficial. Like, I was talking to my tax accountant, and he's like, "Oh, Michael, you wouldn't believe the crazy things people are getting from AIs about taxes." I'm like, yeah, because they have no idea how they should be doing their taxes. You, as a tax expert, can take one look at that and know if it's good advice or bad advice. Just the same way as I could take one look at an AI's output and it's something I'm an expert in and know if that's good enough or not good enough, or like 50% of the way there, and I can tweak it upward. But the point is, without knowledge, I only could possibly hope for average. And so that's where everyone has to understand is sort of like, when you let AI do something you don't have expertise in, you're basically only going to get maybe 50 to 60% good quality. And of course, that number's improving. I'm excited for it to keep improving. But the reality is that's really what we're getting out of that. And we're not getting anything that no one's ever thought of before. We're only getting what's been thought of before and is most standard. Because I tested this with data strategy. I went to the deep research in ChatGPT and I said, really put together research around the top themes and things like that with data strategy. Like, what are people saying about it? What are and it did a great job. I mean, pulled 40 different sources and wrote this whole thing about it. And I said, what's the missing thing from all of these different things? And it literally fell over. It couldn't really come up with anything because it's not there to like do that kind of thinking. Now, I can do that kind of thinking, but it's not. There's not enough other people in the consensus applying that to it that it can build a knowledge base around to say, oh, I've trained myself on that information. Here you go. And so that's where we always have to it's important to think about, okay, yeah, my expertise applied to AI gives me a superpower. Someone without expertise applied to AI brings you up to average. And so then now you can see, like, okay, then how should we use it in our businesses? The one thing I do get concerned about AI and how we're going to proceed, because we're obviously not going to stop using it, is what do people without expertise do to build expertise now? Because if AI is writing all of our code in the next 3 years, how do people who are starting out as software developers build that expertise to be able to coach the AI to write amazing code? Or how does that next amazing breakthrough in coding language or the replacement to SQL or ever come about if all we're using is the same things AI knows the most about? Because like people I've talked to who are developers, the more esoteric the language is, the less the AI is really doing a good job with it. The more popular the language, the more amazing it is, because there's there's a bigger corpus of information for it to consume and learn on. So it's a really interesting challenge to think about. And as analytics people, I think about it for us mostly. It's sort of like, okay, so yeah, how do we take a junior analyst and make him into an amazing senior analyst down the road? And if AI is coming in and doing like a bunch of that job, the nice thing is AI is nowhere close to doing the analyst job. Now, give it 2 years and my story will change. And like so much progress is being made, and I'm super excited about that. But you know, that's the thing I think for a lot of us, and especially experienced listeners, think about is how do we make sure there's a bridge backward so that we don't lose the connectivity so that future people can come in and be good at this as well. Because the last thing we all want is everyone getting to average and no further.
This one I can't remember the source on, but I do remember seeing someone who had said they'd used AI it had given it kind of what it was wanting to get more expert at, and said, develop a training plan for me. And these are the criteria I want to do, a half hour a day, because I kind of along those lines. That's why I'm terrified that people think this is going to let me skip the steps of hard work and frustration and thinking about the business, about how code works, about architecture, whatever it is. And I don't think there is that's not what it's gonna do. Like, people still need to develop expertise, and you develop expertise through practice. And there's a degree of accelerating, but I don't. Yeah,
I think it's crazy that Michael, I love the way you were talking about the averages. I've never thought about it that way, and that was definitely like a clarity moment for me, because I feel like people can't start with a blank slate. Like, how do you, to your point, how do you gain the skill, or Tim, kind of what you're saying, like, how do you gain the skill to look at a blank screen and be like, I need to go write code to do this, or I need to get my thoughts out in a coherent way. And if you've always had the ability to like go to AI and get even just a starting point, like, I don't know, I just feel like that's such a core skill in problem solving and problem definition and just like growing in general in your capabilities. Because something I found too is like sometimes I struggle or push back, maybe drag my feet on going and using AI sometimes, because to Mo's point earlier, I don't like the brain work of going through and slogging through its long, verbose, kind of average answer and tweaking it. Like, I sometimes do better my workflow and the way I like to work and like the output I get. Like, I like a blank screen and I just brain dump, or I just try something. And then to Tim's point earlier, like, then maybe I go and use AI to help me. But I don't know, it's like such a different exercise in my head that I find it exhausting to take an initial AI output and then make it into something good.
Do you know what's so funny? I'm the complete opposite. Like, I
Really?
loved, because I am one of those people that literally needs a rubber duck on my desk, because I need to like have something to bounce off and be like, oh, I'm hitting this wall, like, or, oh, I haven't thought of this. And like, I am the epitome of the rubber duck when I'm, especially if I'm writing code. And that's what I essentially am using AI for now, is like to go back and forth and then be like, oh no, you haven't gotten this right. Okay. Oh no, I want to look at this now. Or like, I want to change this wording. And I was thinking about this the other night. I was working on something and part of me was like, oh, I feel like this might've been faster if I just did the whole thing from scratch. But I feel the output ended up being better for my working style because I got that feedback loop, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But I don't see how that's different. That's, you still initiated it. You brought your expertise, your point of view, your thoughts, and you put it in. I think Julie, if I'm hearing right, saying, but if I start with if I don't come in with a starting point and ask a query is something I'm looking, if I don't come in with something to bounce it off, I just show up with a prompt, I'm going to write this kind of vanilla thing and I'm going to get vanilla back. And then I'm going to say, send it to my favorite presentation tool and say, generate a presentation of it. And it's going to make a vanilla presentation that checks a lot of boxes, but doesn't move anything forward.
I don't know. It's even like when I've asked it to help me like summarize a lot of data, like I've done a sentiment analysis recently. So I was using a sentiment analysis like Gem in Gemini, and I like stripped it all of PII and all that. But I put some of these responses and I was asking like, help me take these 700 responses and just like help me identify some themes. And at first read, it's like, oh yeah, that's great. I could ask for direct quotes that prove each of those themes. But then it's like, I'm going through and checking, and I did read through like all the responses, and it's just interesting how much rework. And I'm not saying that's like not a good place to start, but that is like exhausting to me of being like, it wrote up this thing and now I actually have to re-dissect it and take it out. And it's just a very different, like working style. Like I like when I can come with a more like vision of what I'm trying to get. And I guess for the sentiment analysis, like I don't know a better way, right? Like how am I supposed to go through all these written things and remember all the quotes and what like physically like put them in categories? Unrealistic. But that exercise made me realize, to Tim's point, like I like using AI to further something I kind of already have going, rather than it spitting out this initial kind of messy thing and having to rework it, I guess. It's just a preference thing.
So there's my Cassie Kozrakov from her What is Vibe Coding piece, where she said she was making the difference of like trying to read somebody else's code versus writing your own code and trying to debug it. And she was like, at least when you write buggy code yourself, you understand the flawed thinking that created it. With vibe coding, you're playing archaeologist in someone else's mistakes. So like if you went through and did the sentiment analysis yourself, by the time you got to responses number 650, you'd be like, oh, I'm doing this differently from how I did it initially. now I need to like go back and do it again. But you'd have that kind of baked into what you're doing. If you just skipped all of that, you don't know what it.
Yeah. That's the exact example and perfect way to put it. It is. It's like, I don't trust it. I don't know all the assumptions it made. And now I'm kind of having to dig and check it all.
That's interesting what Cassie said, though, because I found, like, I've used it quite a lot. I haven't used it to QA someone else's code, but I have used it definitely to understand someone else's code. And I found that super helpful because it was like a business area that I wasn't as familiar with. I wasn't familiar with the tables and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of was like, I wanted to like sense check of like, how is this metric being calculated? Like all of that sort of stuff. And it helped me understand that at a time when the person who wrote the code was asleep, and it was really useful.
That's not her point. Her point at all. That's not her point at all. Her point was if you ask it to generate the code, then you've gotten the code that is the person who's asleep.
Oh, got it.
She was saying this is like debug. So absolutely.
And if you don't go ask it all the questions of like, why'd you choose this? Did you think of this edge case? Yeah. What happens at this edge case?
I mean, I think that's
just don't know.
That is a great point. If you're trying to look at somebody else's, like if it's a spaghetti hot mess and you're saying, I mean, I could even see asking it like, how good is this? Like, this seems like it's 4,000 lines. Could this be done better? So but again, that's an assistant of saying, I don't understand what this is doing, and the person who wrote it's not here. Help me out. I think that's a
great use case.
Okay, one of the things that I feel like is coming to mind also with vibe coding, I'm going to say something that might also be controversial. I wonder if the reason like the LookML example is so good is because LookML is so basic. Like you're not like, most people can write LookML, it's fairly like simple, I would say, versus like if you're trying to write code for something that's very complex and then trying to debug it, I could see that being like it would be very bad at that. Whereas like, I don't know, so maybe it has to also do with the complexity of the problem, like what the code is trying to do or the coding language.
Mm-hmm. But that has me, the complexity front has me thinking if you look at where people kind of jumped to self-labeling themselves data scientists after they'd taken a Python boot camp and didn't have what are the trade-offs in the different models that I could choose to run on this. Asking AI, you're probably giving it incomplete information. And hey, should this be gradient boosting? Like what should I use? And maybe, Michael, it goes back to what you were saying. Somebody who doesn't know any better, if the AI says, well, based on what you gave me, it didn't think to probe for some other factors, it didn't know some context or nuance, it could totally send you down a path that wasn't helpful. Whereas if somebody's like a legit experienced data scientist who probably wouldn't even need to they wouldn't query it. They'd say, well, given the nature of this, I think we should use X, Y, and Z.
There was something that you said there, Tim, because you were saying like if they had taken the Python boot camp, like they might not know to think about different models, like having that knowledge. And then when you were juxtaposing that, you said someone who has more experience, because I think that that's a key part of it is like the tripping down and falling down and like knowing what the watchouts are. Like I think that that's a huge part of it too, is like there's nothing to replace the experiences the scars that have made us who we are, right?
They stick with you.
I want all of you to struggle with applying Stephen Few's principles to data visualizations of random BI tools.
Okay, so one concept that has been churning around in my mind a lot of late, and this is tangential to this whole AI piece. I kind of keep coming back to like, what happens if we give people like more ability to self-serve, answer their own questions using AI, whatever it is, and they misinterpret it or they make mistakes. And recently someone said to me, they're like, and what if they do? Like, so they make a mistake, they misinterpret the data, they're accountable for that mistake and that misinterpretation, and then they need to fix it. And they don't make that mistake again. And I feel like it's this tension that's been like rolling around in me where I'm like, I always want to protect people from making the less good decision. And so I'm like, I want them to make the best decision possible the first time. And so I'm always like, oh, and like, we can help you do that. That's what data science does. And it's like, the funny thing is though, as we talk about expertise, so much of your expertise comes from making those mistakes yourself. So it's like, anyway, I'm just thinking out loud about letting people just fuck up themselves and then figure it out, and how there's value in that.
Yeah.
Plus, that's actually kind of part of the human experience. I mean,
I was
like,
going to
that's
say, yeah.
like there's this like, I think lots of things have been like lots of thought pieces around like if there wasn't hard shit and frustrating stuff and mistakes made. I mean that's getting rather philosophical, but like if everything is like a smooth path, then like what are we got to go, find aliens to fight or something. That's where.
But isn't that the point though? That like all these people that think, hey, I can just like throw a CSV into like ChatGPT, it's going to answer all my business questions. I don't need data scientists, blah, blah, blah. Why not let them do it? Be like, sure, you want to upload these CSVs in, answer your questions, get some shitty answers back and make some shitty business decisions. That, my friend, is going to be a great learning opportunity.
They'll make a bad decision and then it will come back and they'll be like, oh, it was just really low quality data. Like we really just need to like clean our data and just, we need some more tools, different tools. Yeah. It was the tools' fault.
The tools are always the ones that are messing us up. For sure.
Oh, Val, that hurts. That hurts.
Well, if someone thinks that that's a solution mode, do you really think they're going to have like the self-reflection to be like, oh, it's not me?
That's the other thing that these guys, separate from we're going to stand up our little Johnny-come-lately, just ask the question and give you the answers. The other is that there's so many people have jumped on this. Well, with AI, you got to feed the beast, so you need to get all of your data. So that has also stood up an enormous number of companies that are now sowing fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we got to have all the data pumped in, and it's kind of energized the. I was talking to a longtime friend who she's a marketer, and she was like went on a tear about cookie blocking. European-based company. She's in North America, and she's like, we had to fight so we could get the cookie, even if they don't if they don't accept consent, they can. If they don't consent to.
What's going on?
Val's checking her blood pressure.
Val's checking her blood pressure at Tim's rant. She's like, poor Val.
But that has been fed as well. Like it does get to where Val was that, and now if a bad thing happens, it's not because I tried to shortcut it. Nobody's going to accept that the AI is no good. It's going to be, we must not have had enough data. The data must not have been clean enough. And they throw it to the data team, and that becomes the problem when it's just often not. It's like, no, you need to think harder.
Thanks, Tim. I'm back to pessimistic. Full swing.
I make sure people can still like sniff out the BS. Like you need enough people that can sniff out the BS, and you need enough people to not get stuck in the echo chamber that maybe AI is making worse in some area. You know what I mean? Like that's where my head goes, is like the people who can like see beyond will still rise to the top, because like I feel like you're going to get a lot of that like echo chamber. Like
it's hard
stuff.
enough to maintain data quality in a single source of data or a single data set. Now, map out the 4 to 5 data sets you'll need to maintain in complete alignment with complete accuracy. It's not a job that's going to be very easy very fast.
No.
That's the truth. And we have to do that if we want LLMs to be able to house the context for actually doing what we would call analysis.
Blood pressure's back.
Blood pressure's
Check mine.
Yeah.
Check mine.
I love.
It's too much.
We're the one audio podcast with prop comedy. So all right. Well, hey, we better wrap up this episode. Congratulations, each of you. Now go ahead and go put AI expert on your LinkedIn profile.
Oh.
Everyone else is doing it.
AI strategist. AI strategist.
AI strategist.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's better. Yeah. Did you use an AI to come up with that?
No, I might have seen that on a long-time member of the analytics community. I was like,
anyway,
interesting.
Very good. And actually, what stood out to me,
John,
I loved, Mo, hearing from your experience, because it's a lot different than what I'm experiencing out there in the context that you're operating in. So that was really great. And I love the juxtaposition and just sort of learning from that. So that was amazing. Tim, nothing. I got nothing. No, just kidding.
Jesus.
Tim, of course, name dropped like everybody, Cassie and Ethan Mollick, which I also love.
Most well-read individual.
Yes, exactly. Continuing on in his quintessential analyst ways. Nice job.
He can't help himself.
And Julie, way to lead the conversation today. Thank you.
We knew it.
Yeah, I said it. Listen. I just typed into Gemini and I said, "Who's going to be the best at kind of like helping
Who's made
drive
the best
this?"
gem?
Yeah, and it was like, "Oh, who?" And then Gemini's like, "Who are my options?" Oh, Julie by a mile. And Val, thank you too. No, because I think what you did, Val, which was actually super important for the conversation, was you turned it back into who or what we're going to do with people around this, which I think we were all over the place, and you brought us back to like probably the more important central element of this, which is we're analytics people. So, all right. And I went on a few rants, so yay. All right.
Good ones. I was a fan of them.
Let's say right now that I bet you're out there passing this whole episode through an AI filter to bring it down to 30 seconds or something. But if you hear something you're interested in, we would love to hear from you. So please do reach out. You can reach us on LinkedIn or on the Measure Slack chat or by email, contact@analyticshour.io. And we'd love to hear from you. Please do not send us AI-created emails. Mo does not appreciate that. Or if you do, train the AI to be very succinct.
And funny. And funny.
Yeah. And they're getting so much better at being humorous now. So it's good. And then the other thing I'd like to say is, we've been around for a long time. And if you've never thought to go on your favorite platform and give us a rating or a review, I'd say AI can help you with that too. So, we're not above it. Just go out there and give us 5 stars and a long-winded AI-driven... No, don't do that. But do rate and review the show. It helps AIs consume the show and then tell people the cool things we say. And then, last and certainly not least, a big shout-out to Josh Crowhurst, our producer, for everything he does to help us get this show off the ground.
Can we just say that every time you fuck around with AI-generated images of us as a group, and Josh always looks...
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really
do you know what it is?
good.
Do you know, I worked this out.
Yeah.
AI knows what to do with images of men with beards. That is the summary I have.
Oh,
okay.
That's interesting. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
That's probably a whole episode right there, Mo. I don't know. But anyways, yes, Josh Crowhurst, who looks amazing in Studio Ghibli form, as well as other elements. But yeah, thank you, Josh, for everything you do. And I would just say, and I think I speak for all my co-hosts out there, no matter what part of your job AI is doing, the part it can never do for you, and you got to keep doing, is to keep analyzing.
Thanks for listening. Let's keep the conversation going with your comments, suggestions, and questions on Twitter at @AnalyticsHour, on the web at analyticshour.io, our LinkedIn group, and the Measure Chat Slack group. Music for the podcast by Josh Crowhurst.
So smart guys wanted to fit in, so they made up a term called analytics. Analytics don't work.
Do the analytics say go for it no matter who's going for it? So if you and I were on the field, the analytics say go for it. It's the stupidest, laziest, lamest thing I've ever heard for reasoning in competition.
Guys, I've got an exciting example to share today. I'm not telling you now.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I haven't even had fucking coffee. This is fucked.
I am going to need to get another beer.
See? Told you to chug that.
Well, I don't know if you need coffee. I'd be worried.
Yeah.
If we push it right up to a 5:30 Central ending time, we might get an appearance of Abby Lou.
Oh.
Abby.
So, just warning.
Abby.
I think that's perfect, actually.
That sounds wonderful.
I opened
Hard
up my
stop.
laptop over when we were eating breakfast this morning just to like do something really quick, and she's like, "Are you talking to Tim?"
The way she refers to Tim constantly cracks me up. What was it? She was pretending to be working when she was homesick.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Hey Tim," like she was pretending to talk to Tim.
To be
she
fair,
has
my
meetings
kids do
with
this. My kids do the same, but they're like, "I'm going to go do work now," and then they sit at my desk and tap, and I just turn off my keyboard. But they don't call Tim.
Yep.
They don't name specific coworkers. I mean, you have a few more coworkers.
They probably have a little more
So-
variety.
Well, they do. They do when they come to the office. They're like, "Where's Auntie Priscilla?" So yeah, they do have their favorites.
I put in Slack my first attempt to make us into Muppets. And it invented a random other Muppet and put it in there. I was like,
that
there's
Ken?
a ghost. That's Ken Riverside? I don't know.
That's Ken. But that's like old Ken. I definitely thought of him as like younger, hipper, more dapper, but I like...
Yeah. No, we've already got Ken nailed with AI before, so...
I like how we're all Muppets and Tim is from The Simpsons.
Yes!
That same thought.
Oh wait, which one's that one?
Ted is Flanders' cousin, and we're all Muppets.
So that one didn't work very well.
Rock flag and more dashboards through